Let's record. So, uh, to recap, we were just discussing age. I've got my database from 2024 back to 2000, and just the idea about older wide receivers versus mid versus young, and there's this perception, the youth is ruling, I think, and some of these old dogs throw them out the door. And I think there's some survivor issues that the selection, there's not many, say, going to, let's say, 35. Okay. Because I've got the data for
Hmm.
35. And they're just, uh, not, and I'm trying to see here. Okay. Uh, yeah. So, uh, okay. Got that. So I'll show you kind of where you're at. Okay. So just real quick, Dennis, this is not, uh, not to be the uh, end and the be all here. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So uh hmm. Now, sometimes, Dennis, I get stuck with the data here. So
I know that feeling. I know
yeah, I'm
that
just
feeling.
like, okay, that's intriguing here. Let's see here.
And the reason this or the how this whole thing began and this discussion began right before we decided we are getting too philosophical and needed to start recording is, the professor
Yeah,
asked what age, for wide receivers. And I wasn't really sure I had an answer, but I had a theory of how I've always played dynasty startups, and that
mhm,
people they ignore the 27, 28-year old wide
mhm,
receivers. They treat them like they're old and heading out to the old folks home. And
mhm,
I see that as the opportunity
mhm.
because of the ADPs
Well, we've
to
got
to
some
load up on.
data, and I've
Yeah.
got some things we're going to look at. So why don't I?
And if I was asked, what is the prime age for the
Yeah,
best wide receivers, I'd say 25 to 28. I
yeah.
would say those are the sweet years for wide receivers in fantasy football. And I don't know, I haven't looked at any data to know. It's just what up from
Yeah.
playing fantasy football for a long time. And I'm
Mhm.
familiar with your survival concept,
Yeah.
though, of the older players.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the data here. So what I did, Dennis, I apparently we had somebody who was 20 years old got in the NFL. One out
Yep.
of five 5,119. So that was
Wow.
interesting. Yeah, but he only got 12 his first year.
Hmm.
So I don't know what he had. So column one is age here. This is average of fantasy points. So I took everybody in the last 25 years, wide receivers that were 20 years old, 21, all the way to 42. I get the average fantasy points at the end of the season, just end of the season, or the end of their season, right? If they got injured, I still capture their points. And here's the counts, and you can see that the optimal is 24 years old is 804. So there's a buildup. So 21 is 83, 22, 23, 24. And then that goes down. And apparently we had, I don't know if this is uh, Fitzgerald or whoever it was 40, 41, and 42. And
Wow.
at 40, they kicked out 257 fantasy points. So they were really the extreme. So, and then if it's this, I could look, I just hadn't. Then if this is the same person, the next year is 161. Then at 42, if it's the same person, they were at 90. So if you divide by 17 weeks or 16, it was time to go. I mean, it looks like about 40, that person probably delivered. They stayed a couple of years too long, but anyway, you can look and see, what's what. So and so then I calculated fantasy points average per number of players, and this is the race. So it gets really extreme here, right? If you've got one person, so the data is really funky. So I only, well, I'll show you this. So if you plot the fantasy points per player, it actually goes up over time because the number of players in the sample is really going down. But the number of the average the ratio goes way up, Dennis. And, that's the idea of the survivorship concept, that whoever's left, the reason they're left because they're still producing. Not everybody, but there's some producers to where you end up with a ratio that is pretty damn good. And so if you just ignore all that and just look at the average, Dennis, here's the average. And it's probably a little longer than you would think. It's 116 is 34, but what this tells me is you get a lot of players that are in there, but they're just I don't know how they're keeping on, but at some point, maybe it's the first contract, eventually it starts going up at 26. Is that about the first? There's a little bit of these super spikers that hit early and they're phenoms. And then you've got those that are, everybody's fallen and they're surviving. And that's the survivorship concept. I mean, if you're hanging there and you're doing your thing and all of a sudden you realize the room is getting, smaller and there's not as many people in there, your contributions count for more. And so that's the survivorship. And so I think if you divide by the number of players, this shows you that information. And this even if you don't do it that way, if you just look at average, it's telling you that the break point, is starting to be around 32 or so. I mean, if you throw 34 out, but it's somewhere 31, 32, let's just say 34. Let's say that's the where it really breaks. So I'm, with this data and careful consideration, Dennis, this data to me says I probably should ignore except the extremes. And then, but again, the concept is the extremes, there's so few of them. The ones that are good, they'll stand out. And that's the ones to play. So I wouldn't just arbitrarily, this idea of, they're 35 out the door. I just don't like this. It's non-scientific. It's being biased. It's people argue, we should judge by merit, right? Not by, the appearance, right? Or not by their age, right? If grandma can lift 100 pounds of groceries, she ought to be at the grocery store. That kind of, I mean, we shouldn't judge people just by their merit. And so this is that concept as well. So look at it that way, Dennis. This data, and this is an update, and I'll do some more of this off season. But this is what it's showing us right now. So it's a couple ways to see this, these extreme players that are surviving. You can't just throw them away and expect, well, they're going to do bad. I argue what's happening is next year, if they're 34, next year, if they survive to 35, then they probably were good at 34, and they probably are going to be good at 35. I mean, I know there is at some point, but it's not an arbitrary knee-jerk reaction, right? I understand people in dynasty, but I've got another finding that I think might explain, let's call it the upside. And I think there's some data here, Dennis, and let me find it where I hit it. I got to hide stuff, Dennis. That's my job. Okay. So this is, let's see, I think this was 35. And so the scale is end of the season, 450, 450. This is 27. What I see, look at the floor of the top quadrant, 190 to 277. That is a nice floor at 34, 35.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the floor here. It's lower, but look at the ceiling, 300 and something. So wow. I think the dynasty people are letting these extreme players decide the quadrant, the distance in the quadrant. And this is saying these guys that if you could predict, if I could pick a 35, it's going to be in the top 25 quadrant. That's safer than a 27 in the 25th quadrant. But the 27-year-olds are going to way outperform by 100 points or so some of the extremes. So you're giving up that extreme spike for some safety. So I think when you're drafting, we need to consider that, especially late. If you've got an older one that's late, 14th, 15th round, I'm not turning away a solid, floor. If I'm confident they're going to be in the top, the top 25% quadrant of, those. In other words, it's an extreme person at that age. In other words, if there's evidence that they're really, age is not catching up with them, I think you're getting a safer floor than the 27-year-olds. But if you knee jerk, I think you'll bounce wrong here. You'll shoot for these, but all of a sudden you're getting 145 guys, and you're like, well, boy, that sucks. And so if I'm in dynasty, does that drive me to say, based on my experience, think about it. People judge on their experience. If they've had two dynasty teams and they look and they just by chance grabbed a couple of 27 and they're delivering here, they're saying, well, shit, they're too old. I can't have this next year. So I got to get rid of these cats. What they're doing is losing this long-term safety floor, I think. That's what I'm interpreting now with about 10 minutes of analysis, Dennis. But I don't think I've ever seen anybody discussing this kind of situation. And that's the advantage, digging into the metrics, the scientific approach is because it's not going to be knee-jerk. There's more to the story. I would argue that our science approach finds the nuances and aspects that are not even considered. I don't think anybody would consider that this is the choice you really have.
No, and the population is greater. There's more 27-year-olds in the league than there are 34-year-olds or 35-year-olds. Mm-hmm. But you're so right. if you can be on the right side of that, and this is where my strategy, without knowing this data,
Well, it could be MVP. If we looked at
but
MVP,
yes,
maybe that was
yes,
at 33. They're still producing, Dennis.
yeah, and the whole point in my strategy was I was taking the logic because I've seen your survivor data. I was taking the logic. If I get a 27-year-old who is at his prime, because of course I'm not drafting ordinary, so I'm drafting MVPs over 80,
And we're hoping we're finding these guys up in here above 300.
Correct. But here's the kicker. Even if I'm not catching the lightning in the bottle guys, what if I'm just at the average, but I get the right guys that are lasting, that are surviving? I'm actually improving with age as
Well, the
far
average is
as the
87,
average. Yeah.
111. So
Yeah.
higher average. Like I said, it almost seems if you can pick correctly, you're getting a safe, and I bet you're getting a draft capital discount.
Huge bargain. Huge bargain. Huge bargain.
This doesn't mean I'm drafting all 35 next year.
No,
Obviously, this is using
no.
common sense, but I'm not
Correct.
turning my eyes away from somebody that has a pretty good MVP and 33 is moving 34, 35. I'm not just throwing them out the door either, especially late in the draft.
No,
Early in the
no.
draft, no, because look, they're capped, Dennis.
Yes.
You see, there's the flip side of this. And I think people are only seeing the ceiling. They're not thinking about the floor in any of this. And I've never seen this data done before. Maybe I'll do a poster. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just let people keep making these same mistakes in Dynasty and
Yeah.
redraft, Dennis. But people say, well, metrics don't tell you anything. To me, it's just like, man, it just slaps you in the, it's like the fish slap dance from Monty Python. They slap you in the head with the fish, with the big mackerel. This, when I just saw this and I started thinking, I'm looking at this like, man, this is great. Now, the number, I only have to weed through about 30 or so, Dennis.
Right.
Here, I've got to go about 300 or 400. So the effort to grab these, that's why we need that MVP comms and other methods to shortcut us because we got a lot of fools at the train station. Not many left here at this age.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I've looked at, and this year it's been very interesting that when I've looked at the MVP data from players in the past, and I'm looking at a year by year thing, if I can't find a legitimate injury based reason or horrible quarterback reason, whatever having a reason, and this goes back to horse race handicapping analysis. If you see a horse that's been finishing, top three, and then finishes ninth. What happened in that race? Was there a bad trip? Was the pace? Did he, try to close off of a slow pace? Find the excuse, or the excuse is he's no longer in peak form.
Yeah.
And so this year at wide receiver, one of the classic guys that I was targeting, and I had such a hard time pulling the trigger, but ended up doing it because I followed the data rather than emotion, was Michael Pittman. And I looked at Pittman last year and his huge drop off in data. And when you look at what happened and you realize he was playing with a bone that was broken in his back, and he was playing through the pain, but obviously not being effective most of the season. And you get to this year, and the prognosis is he's healthy. I went and said, I'm going to trust that he's healthy. You know, the reports, my eye test, seeing him at camp says he looks like he's doing well. I'm rolling the dice because, again, if I had to spend a top 3-round capital to get him, I'm in avoidance mode. But where I was getting him in the draft, I thought that was priced in already. And so I'm getting a guy who's got the back class of top 20 MVP type of performance. He's in the top 20s. Now, that's not great, but it's certainly better than 35th to 50th. Yeah. And I'm spending 45th to 50th capital on a guy whose back class says he should be a solid WR2. And that's the data that, you know, that's the way I was using the MVP data this year. Is I'd look at the data, look at the drop, and then look for an excuse. You know, again, the theory of bad trip theory in horse racing, especially harness racing. Yes. If in harness racing you were sent 3 wide through the final turn, you basically lost 4 lengths through the turn. And if you did that and you still were competitive at the end, now if you get a better trip moving to the inside, you're going to be 4 lengths, 5 lengths better. That's 4/5 to a full second difference on the racetrack. That's a lot of distance. So that's the theory I used. And this data says that I was using it in the correct way, because based on age alone, he was a candidate to be a primetime guy.
Yeah.
And he had the back class to show it. And yes, we're 3 weeks into the season, so it could turn out to be a total flop pick. But right now, I'm kind of happy with the numbers I'm getting from him. Yeah. And that's the way I was using this data this year, is to say, hey, look, prove to me why last year was an aberration. Mm-hmm. And so I've gotten 2 very good weeks out of 3 from Pittman. And even the third week, which was 8 points, that ain't going to kill you. Mm-hmm. As your one of your last 2 flex plays. Right. So, but this data is solid stuff, because it tells me that it tells me 2 things. First of all, if I'm right in a dynasty situation, I picked the right 27-year-olds. Yep. I'm hitting that higher ceiling. But as they sit on my team for the next 5 seasons, they're a more valuable player at age 32 if they survive.
If they're surviving, I think you've got a solid floor concept.
Yes.
And so, especially in bye weeks, I don't know enough to know how this works with bye weeks. I haven't done that research. And for those that have listened a lot, you probably already, it's like, when do these guys not have questions? We're always going to have new questions, folks. Until we're gone, until we're in the fantasy football stadium in the sky, because that's what's going to stop me, right? And there's a lot of stuff going on, and I just wanted to tease this out a little bit. Sometimes I get bored, and I'm sitting there and curious, and so now I might do tight ends or running back. I think we're going to see things interesting with running backs, and with the running back data, Dennis, I do have fantasy points from passing. So I think
Yes.
I can look at
Yes.
age versus fantasy points passing because
Yes.
previous year's data, it's been a while, suggests that there's a higher uh, percentage in the survivors that are catching passes, and that may extend your longevity or your value to a team, right? As a third down kind of or a red zone, or you have your role, and why are we keeping you around for on that for that second contract? I mean, look at CMC. I mean, he's the
Oh my
poster
goodness. Yes.
boy for that. There was others. Shane Vereen was one I remember, was a lot like that. There's been others over the years that are just fantastic at catching and getting that 10 points through the passing game. And I
Well,
mean, people talk about that and balance it, but it's still, that doesn't somehow apply to the age. I've never heard anybody discuss that other than me and you when I show you the data. And I don't know, it makes sense to me. It's not like, wow, this is exactly crazy. Nobody would ever
no,
think this
no.
at all. So I'll probably do that as well, Dennis. I know we got other fish to fry and start the show because
Well,
are you on your podcast tonight? Another podcast?
yeah,
Weren't
pros
you
and
Pop last night or Crackle or
I
whatever
was
you?
I was pop. I do have to get the hat to
Yeah,
wear
get a
to
hat or
Expo.
something. Yeah,
I
you
gotta
need to
get
get you a Pop
snap.
hat or yeah, get you the little elf hat or something.
Yeah, I do need that for Expo next year.
You
But
know,
yeah,
I would think Halloween, there may be an elf hat or something probably at the
ooh,
Halloween store. Go to Walmart,
I should be able to find that. Yeah.
some funny ears, and just maybe put a little sign. I'm, Pop. Ask me why I'm called Pop. And then you can, everybody like, okay, what is this guy?
I, I,
Anyway,
yeah,
anyway.
and here's the thing.
Yeah,
Getting back.
trick them on Halloween, Dennis. That week of Halloween, wear
I
your
like
hat.
it. I like
Yeah,
it.
I'm going
I
as
like
Pop door to
that's
door to steal little kids' candy.
a I
And
love it.
and if they say that, I say, "Well, Greg Kellogg told me to do that from Kellogg Snap Crackle Pop." Right?
Oh, the cereal guy? No, no, the
No,
fantasy
no, this
football
other.
guy.
Yeah, he told me to steal your candy.
Yeah, getting back to the goofy data here
Yeah,
after the goofy hat
yeah.
visual that everybody has in their head now. Now the it makes sense that those older wide receivers hold on if they have something very good that they can do on the football
You
field
wonder if
because
it's genetics. Is it like height? Is it just been lucky that they hadn't, got their legs tore up or knees are still functioning? I don't
some
know. I don't
some
know
of
if
it
it's how
is
much is luck, how much is genetics and skill. You wonder. I mean, I know some of them, they're smart enough not to try to jump over a player. Like I see some of these running backs, they like
oh
to do flips and flops. And every time I see that, somebody, acting a fool in the end zone with some type of celebration, I'm just like, well, what you going to do then when you break a leg? I don't know. I'm just,
there goes the Achilles on a
yeah, can you
flop, in the
imagine?
end zone.
Can you
Yeah, and
imagine?
but
Yeah.
but if we think about what we're seeing again this year, and this is replayed every single year that we watch football, remember at the beginning during the preseason, remember when we were talking about the potential of this rookie class of running backs.
Yes.
I said, I thought that in this class, and because of the data that I was seeing that appears to be cyclical, and it'd been a long time since we've seen a large number of rookie running backs,
Uh-huh.
that we were due for a replacement cycle
Yeah.
because running backs are the most fragile of all football players, it seems. They come and they go, and this is why teams aren't spending high draft capital on guys. This is why they're not giving them, only the select few get that second contract for the big money. We're seeing with James Cook now, and we're seeing that they made the right decision. He was worth it. But when I was talking about this rookie class, I was saying 6 to 8 running backs are likely to take over.
Was that your opportunity, Nick?
It was based on opportunity. Yeah. A lot of it was opportunity, but some of it was based on the data that said it had been 4 years since we had seen a big rookie class of running backs. So it was the fact that we had good running backs. Maybe we didn't have the next Saquon Barkley, but we had like 8 to 10 really solid looking NFL running back types. And that's why I had that strategy that's developed. In this year, it was on steroids, because this year I said, there's 5 guys plus Ray Davis that I'm targeting,
yes,
starting in the 10th round. But when I was talking about this rookie class, remember, I didn't say from week 1. No. I always specified week 6.
And I don't know how you can. We probably should look at that.
Yes.
I mean, we could with the weekly data, Dennis.
Yes.
You could track rookies and watch their, MVP, the COM, when it all shifts up, and get an average and probably correlate it to, where they were drafted in the rookie draft. That kind of thing. I mean, I know that question could be solved out there.
Yes. And I wasn't trying to solve it. I was just saying there's 2 ways that a rookie running back is going to get a chance. Number 1 is the existing running back on the team is going to suck for several weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
The other alternative is that veteran running back who gets leaned on in the first few games will have an injury.
Yeah, we hate that.
And we hate
Connor.
that. Yeah. Connor is the latest.
R.I.P. We love you.
Austin.
I'm having to find replacements. Fortunately, I listened to my guru, my running back guru. Dennis said, Connor, you got to have Benson. And so, fortunately, there now. I didn't get him for everyone because other people were poaching in too. I mean, but I think I've had him 3 times, and I have 2 Bensons, and the other one I had to just, fish. And it did us what I'm finding. If I'm having to fish, I'm going deeper still, looking for that, Jeremy McNichols, or I'm making sure they hadn't. And I found some people had dropped or hadn't picked up Spears.
Yes.
On IR.
Yes.
So I'm putting him in. Somebody dropped Aaron Jones in an FFPC.
Wow.
And so I know I'm not going to get him. If people are awake to that, they'll probably overspend. But I put a little bid in, and like I said, another place I put in a bid for Spears, but then McNichols and Chris Brooks was out there, and a few places still, a few other people that might have a role somewhere. DeMarcado, Michael Carter.
Michael Carter was the guy that I was hot in.
For a buck.
Yep.
So. I'm using, in other words, if I'm getting rid of Connor, I'm trying to replace him with somebody in the rotation that can maybe by the end of the season, I can get some of that back that I lost through Connor. That's
and that's the right attitude. And if you look at where we are with rookie running backs right now,
right?
Okay. Judkins is taken over in Cleveland.
Yes.
We won't see any more Jerome Ford. And Jerome
Oh,
Ford was an
Ford
ordinary.
is out there in a few because I'm picking him up for $1.
And
if
that's
I've got
not
room.
That's not a bad play, because what if the rookie gets burned out or all of
hurt.
a sudden starts fumbling? You know, because a coach is not going to stay with a guy who makes a mistake. Look at Caleb Johnson with Pittsburgh Steelers. He comes into the season and they're leaning Jaylen Warren, but they're giving Caleb Johnson some opportunities, and they're saying, well, we're not using him as a starting running back, so we're going to have him on kick duty as well. We're going to get the ball in this kid's hand because he's a playmaker. He makes a boneheaded play on a kick return. Now he's not even kick returning. He's barely active for games at this point. So he has gone into the doghouse, and he is so far into the doghouse, he is not getting out. The cat will get out of the doghouse before he does. But look at Houston. Woody Marks is rising to the top because Mixon went down early. Chubb has been okay, but it's shown that he's playing on surgically repaired knees. He just doesn't have the pop. And Woody Marks is starting to get more and more use. We are only another week or two away from the Pacheco Hunt experiment not working in KC. And unless they get a Kamara or a Breece Hall before the trade deadline, it's Brashard Smith that's the next man up, because Mitchell hasn't been able to stay, 100% healthy. So he hasn't even been active for games.
Right.
But my key was, I thought there were 3 or 4 rookie running backs that were likely to take over early.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought there were another 4 to 5 that were likely to take over by week 6. And I'm still on base, where by week 6, I think we'll have 6 to 8 rookies that have led their team in touches at some point by week 6 and going forward. But this was based on sound research and the opportunity index of saying, hey, look, I understand Tracy had a really solid rookie year for a rookie last year, but his MVP was under 80. And if you look at his best 6 games, he was under 100. When that situation has happened in the past, that guy hasn't kept the job the next year. He was the best that they had last year. But boy, Scatabo against a really tough defense looked pretty damn good last week.
Right.
So, I think we're on par with the rookies being where we think they should be. And it's just a matter of, okay, which ones make boneheaded plays and get benched because of that. But if you look, we're looking at, the other thing that I looked at right away, though, was how has Kansas City's defense been? Their run defense has not been as good as it was last year.
Nope.
And your new DAPs confirm that.
Yep.
So maybe I'm a little less excited about what we saw from Scatabo, because other teams have been able to run on KC and do okay. But what I liked about Scatabo coming out of college is he can catch passes.
Yep.
And that gives you,
that unlocks a lot of the playbook.
Gives you a floor to your fantasy football results, because now, even if you can't run the ball, now you can get the guy the ball 3 to 5 times, and that's 3 to 5 points right there.
Plus the yardage.
Plus the
so
yardage.
Let's say plus 5, and we know median's 12 to 13. So now you're only down 7 to hit median, and I understand we want more. We're all greedy, but we want a score each week so we're not hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have such a we have such a warped idea
Yeah.
of what success should mean in fantasy football. And by that I mean, if you ask people, are you happy with 15 points from your running backs and wide receivers? They'd say, well, if that's my last flex, yeah, I'm okay with that. But right now, if you look at everybody in the league, okay,
Yeah.
at running back, for instance, if I just look at the running back situation now, and I say, okay, how many running backs, just running backs,
Right.
have had more than 15 points on a high level over their last 10 games? You know how many have had 7 or more weeks over 15 points in the last 10 games? So 70% or better of their weeks. What?
It's smaller than most think.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Six right now.
Yeah.
That's 6. That's half of what you're starting.
Yeah.
What running back should be.
Yeah.
It's incredibly low. And if you look at it, the best is no surprise. It's Gibbs from Detroit with 9 of the last 10 games over 15 points, 15 or better. And right behind him, no surprise, A. Shane and Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
Those are your eight week guys, your 80 percenters, your 70 percenters. Barkley, Cook, and how about this? Shuba Hubbard.
Yeah. We like Shuba.
How about that for a name that just keeps popping up every time you look at consistency?
Yeah, he's there.
And we're not looking at consistency and saying, "Oh, give me 10 points." We're saying, "Give me 15."
Oh, well, yeah, obviously.
And when you ask for 15 or more, it's really quite amazing, because right now at running back, if you say, who's given me half of their games in the last 10, 50% over 15 points. So 5 of the last 10. And there's 12 guys, Professor.
Yeah.
It's incredibly rare.
Imagine having 2 of those.
If you got 2 of them, my goodness.
Yeah.
And here's the wonderful thing is you can have 2 of them.
Probably can.
Because I drafted Gibbs and Montgomery, and those are 2 of the guys in that group.
Yeah.
Okay.
I played them both last week. I wasn't no fool.
No. And that's the thing is, if you've got an opportunity.
Yeah. And I actually played Connor and Benson. They didn't work out, but I had it, in my flex. I had Connor in the regular slot, and I put Benson in that last flex. I was like, he could get some, some passing, he could get some activity.
But here's the thing. You got 14 points. So if you did that every week, you got 22, 20, and 14 points.
Yep.
Okay. Last week was a down week because Connor also got hurt midway through. Yep. But how about those first 2 weeks? 22 and 20.
That's pretty good for 2 players.
That's not awful.
No, it's not killing my team.
It's not killing your team. And that's the key. And here was the insurance play on that. And again, of course, if you would have had a guy that you felt really high on getting 12 or more points, you would have played him over playing 2 running backs on the same team.
Right.
But if Connor goes down, points-wise, Benson's likely to come up and vice versa. And that's what's happened with Detroit for the last 3 seasons. Because with Detroit this year, you would have ended up with 23, 32, and 55 points.
Oh, what a feast.
Find me 2 guys that could give you that many points every week. And you want guys from great offenses. What did we say last week with that Detroit game? Give me as many, because the wind is light. Goff's going to be okay. The tendencies said more running back usage on the road.
Yep.
Man, we leaned into that one.
Yeah.
But even if you started both St. Brown and Williams, okay, you're struggling. You lost Rice, you lost somebody else at wide receiver to injury, whatever, and you had to start both of them. First week, not good. 14 on the road against a really solid defense. We expected them to be down. So you probably wouldn't have done it. But the week 2 at home, we said play them all.
Yep.
57 points. And last week, 26.
Yep.
And Jameson Williams, just 2 pass interferences away from adding another 15 points to his total. So, sometimes the penalties you don't get credit for, but, you got to look at what the potential was from that play. If the penalty was not, if the team didn't interfere with him, he would have had another 15 points. He would have been an even better play last week. Yep. And we don't have control over that. So we got to lean into the data to say, when we're playing the guys, hey, give me the upside chance. And we did with that Detroit game. We wanted as many guys from that team. I mean, I had some teams, Professor, where in our TSA team, we had Goff and Lamar going. We didn't even need that many points, but we got all we needed and then some. But the key is, we knew on Monday night you wanted as many of those guys in your lineup as possible, and it paid off on both teams.
I liked it.
But I love that idea of researching, when do rookies take over? When do they really take over?
That. That's an interesting, timeline to see. And I wonder, I don't know how far we can get the data from, but I would love to see, as far back as we could, to see if things have gotten better, worse. Has things changed? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I would like to know that.
But the data that I did discover this year with my research, showing how many top 24 guys emerge as rookies. And by looking at that data and seeing the pattern within that data, it looked like we were due, like it looked awfully good. And when you combine that with the fact that we had 10 to 12 rookies that looked likely to be first or second on the depth chart week 1. And did we miss on a few? Yes. Jaden Blue has not worked out.
Nope.
But look at what we did in that TSA league. Yep. When Javonte Williams fell long enough. Remember, when I was talking about the opportunity index for Dallas, I said it's either going to be Jaden Blue, Miles Sanders, or a healthy Javonte Williams.
Yes.
Didn't rule anybody out.
No.
Because Javonte had reasons that he was less than great last year. There was an injury involved the year before, and he was good enough to play last year. So, hey, you line up, because you don't play, you're out of this league very fast. So the incentive from a survival to keep my contract going.
Yep.
The survivalist says, Michael Pittman, if you can possibly get out on the field, you better do it. Yep. You're better at 60% than the guy who would be replacing you. So if you can get your butt out on that field, we're going to remember that at contract time.
Yep.
And of course they won't unless he comes back and has a great season. But that's the mentality of players is, if I can suit up, I'm suiting up, because the minute they find my replacement, I mean, look in baseball history. Wally Pipp missed a game, and Lou Gehrig never let him have the starting role back ever for ever, like every game forever, until he got sick. So, I mean, that same thing happens in the NFL. These guys get themselves out there. So our attitude was we have Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders. I just cut Jadon Blue. We'll pick him back up if we have another player that goes on the injury list or whatever. We lose another guy, we'll get him back. The idea is we want that Dallas starting running back, whoever it is. And this is where I think, Professor, one of the reasons that we both do very well in fantasy football year in, year out is we build a strategy that pays us even when we're not perfect with our predictions. Because I thought it was either Jadon Blue or Miles Sanders that was going to take that job, was going to eventually hold that job over Javonte Williams. And they might still do that down the road. But I knew I want that starting Dallas running back because they're all three cheap in the draft. Somebody, if all they do is play back to Rico Dowdle last year, that's worth a flex. And this is how we end up with guys on our dynasty team like Chuba Hubbard. We grabbed him off of waivers. We didn't wait for him to do anything.
Nope.
He was next man up. We jumped at him and just happened to work out really well. It wasn't that we knew something about Chuba Hubbard that nobody else knew. We knew he was going to get an opportunity. I had no clue if he was going to be good enough to hold it. But now we look at the data, and here's a guy who, when you talk about most consistent guys in hitting 15 or more points, and you hear the names that make sense: Gibbs, Ashane, Bijan Robinson, Barkley, Cook, and then added to that list before guys like Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara and Bucky Irving and Kyron Williams, guys that you and Jacobs, guys that you'd expect on that list. Derrick Henry. There's Chuba Hubbard.
Yep.
70% of the time in the last 10. I mean, that's incredible. But that's how you build winning teams in fantasy football, is by finding these guys that are the exception to the rule. Look at how cheap he still was this year in fantasy drafts.
It was cheap.
But that's the strategy. That's why we do well, is because we're smart enough to realize, because we've done the data research, smart enough to realize we're not going to be 100% correct.
Nope.
Last year, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White. Who's going to take over? I don't know. Grab them both. That's going to be a solid offense. And I wouldn't even mind having both of them this year. Bucky Irving's the lead guy, but Rachaad White ain't dead yet. And so if you got them both, now I got one starter that I can go through. Remember back at the expo when I asked the experts, and I'm talking experts because those guys who are on stage are pretty damn smart at fantasy football, right? That's kind of the elite group of the people that are, you know, some of the leaders in this industry. Do you want your own running back handcuffed, or do you want somebody else? And the consensus on that stage, because only one spoke up, which tells me that they all agreed with him. Oh, you're limiting your upside by owning your own handcuffs. And you noticed how big I was smiling when that was said.
Yeah, I remember.
Because I didn't care about limiting my upside. I cared about having starters throughout the year to pick from. I want 3 guys to choose from for those 2 starting positions. And hey, if I can just throw the other one in the flex, it makes life easy.
Agree.
All right, Professor, we ready to kick this thing off?
I think we're ready. We beat that horse to death.
Pretty amazing for someone who's been up since before 2 a.m. this morning that I'm this lively today.
Yeah, I see your eyes. You got those crazy caffeine eyes.
I got the crazy caffeine eyes and I got the crazy caffeine right here. I'm not sure what they're putting in this Paul Newman's black tea, but
Uh-oh.
all right, Professor, here we go.
Okay.
How you doing, everybody? This is Dennis Michelson. Welcome to the Science of Fantasy Football. Why the Science of Fantasy Football? You get a meteorologist and a biologist together, and they're going to use the scientific method to decipher statistics. And that simply means, folks, we're going to use the statistics to guide us to an answer instead of cherry picking statistics to find support for our already assumed belief. And by the way, Professor,
Uh-oh. What?
My wife can recite this entire intro to our show. That's
good.
how long we've been doing the Science of Fantasy Football. She's probably smiling in the other room because she can hear me now. But join me as he does each and every week and 3 times a week during the regular season. He is the fantasy professor after all, and he's a real professor, folks. It's John Bush. And John, we're 3 weeks in.
Yep.
And we're starting to get an idea on what the cream rising to the top is going to look like for fantasy football players.
There's still some undefeated teams, and
yes,
the 72 Dolphins, they're watching, and we'd be curious to see, if this is the year somebody sweeps through here. There's injuries. We're all dealing with them, folks. Connor went down. There was some discussion about McLaurin today. I don't know if you heard that. He's seeking multiple opinions. Yeah. So everybody was concerned that wasn't a good sign.
No.
Godwin might come in this week. I'm cautiously excited. People say, well, he'll be limited. Sometimes they are, but I've seen other times when they weren't. I'm not sure I know how to predict that.
Yes.
So, I'm going to play him if I need, 10 points. That's how I'm looking at him this week. Once I see he's played in the shape, then obviously I'm expecting 20 points or more. I'm expecting good things to happen. But right now, I'm looking around at my 10-point folks, and he will now be in that discussion for this week, and we'll see how he does, coming up. And I guess the guy from Minnesota, the second, he went off suspension, didn't he? He had 3 weeks.
Jordan Addison will be back.
I have him in a few places, so I will now have him as maybe a 10-point type person, that kind of thing. So I'm actually, as soon as Ayuk comes in and Rice, I'm going to have, there's some teams where I have, 2, 3, or 4 of those. I'm just waiting for all of them in the next few weeks to come on board, and I'm hoping that's going to make my team stronger. I play with 2 flexes, and that helps. I wouldn't want to play and keep that many IR and suspended players if I didn't have a flex, Dennis. But having 2 flexes and a deep bench allows you to, hoard those folks. And like I said, just to let you know, I see out there in the distance, Jalen Reed for Green Bay is been dropped in a lot of leagues.
Yes.
It's not time yet, but I am making note of where he's at and how many, and just trying to monitor anything to see. They said 6 to 8 weeks, so we're not, we're in week 4. But as week 6 gets here, I'm probably not the only one. There's going to be people probably. So I'm thinking, I may need to get a dollar holler in week 5 to try to jump those week 6 people. Because if you punch his name, it says, the last little blurb, 6 to 8 weeks. So I think people think that's a given. I understand it could be, 7 weeks or 8, but if you're going to play the dollar and play it cheap and you got a bench spot, you may have to jump week 5. So next week, I've got some thinking to do on him.
Yeah, and there's guys like that on my rosters. I have a super flex team in
Mhm.
FPPC where thankfully I did my usual and I've got, I went one elite quarterback and two very good. So I'm still with two very good with Burrow out.
Yep.
Haven't dropped Burrow yet because I haven't needed that roster spot yet. There were some underperforming guys that, I took a speculative pick on late as my last guy, and they're not doing anything. So those are the roster spots I look for first. And usually that's a wide receiver. Like I'll take a speculative pick, you know, late rounds this year. I thought, okay, it's either going to be with Pittsburgh as the second guy behind DK Metcalf. It's either going to be Calvin Austin or it's going to be Roman Wilson. I mean, they drafted Roman Wilson pretty high. He had a redshirt year last year, basically. Maybe he's going to do something. So I grabbed those guys. Same with Denver. I said, I don't know if Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, Mims, I don't know who the second guy behind Cortland Sutton will be. So I had some Pat Bryant. He has not worked out. Again, late pick. But now I got a spot that I can take a look at. If I need another running back, that's a droppable guy. If I need another quarterback or a tight end, that's a droppable guy. So I haven't gotten to the dropping of Burrow need yet.
Nope.
So I probably won't. I'll just let him sit there. It's a super flex. So come December, if he comes back for the last 3-4 weeks, that's the fantasy football playoffs, folks.
Yep.
All of a sudden, if he comes back and he's doing okay, he looks okay. The first week he's out there, I'll put him in there the second week. And if we get close to that time and it doesn't look like he's going to make it, I will drop him after week 11, pick somebody else up, and now nobody else can use him in FPPC. If I drop him late enough, now nobody can recycle that guy for the fantasy football playoffs, because once you drop a guy late in the season, it's like having a trade deadline. There's no trading in FPPC, but their deadline is, and I think it's after week 11, you can't pick that guy up again the rest of the year. So you have to be very smart on how you get rid of position players. Defenses you can, but position players, kickers, yes. But position players, you got to be very careful. But no, that's a great strategy, Professor, in FPPC where you got 10 bench spots.
Yep.
I don't mind carrying guys if they're hurt, because Aaron Jones is going to come back at some point. And Jordan Mason is the man for now, but with higher volume, does his risk of injury increase?
Yeah.
And again, that's another research project for us to do in the off season is to see if some of these myths, but we're seeing it play out. Travis Etienne is having a much better fantasy football season in the first 3 weeks than he did last year. And how much of that is because they're being easy on the volume? They're not using him 20 plus touches a week. They're using Tootin and they're keeping him fresher. Will that have an effect all season? Hopefully it will. I think that's why they're doing it, Yeah. But that's the things that we need to research to see if any of these myths are really true. But Professor, there was a funny thing that came up, and you mentioned Godwin in the on a pitch count type of thing. So
with Worthy as well. Here's another
correct,
one that
correct.
they said.
Worthy's going to be on a pitch count. There's no doubt about that. What they're not going to get these guys to do, they won't be on the field when they're likely to be having a running play. They're not going to waste one of their snaps for an obvious running play. They're not going to be on the field. They're not going to risk these guys unless they're running routes and getting the potential for catches. And that goes for Worthy, that goes for Godwin. Last week, going into the weekend, we had 2 injury situations that the fantasy football Twitter world was treating as identical situations. There should have been treating as identical situations, and they weren't. And the weirdest thing, Professor, is they were on the wrong side of the more severe injury. So you had Tucker Kraft,
yes,
who got hurt during the week, and it was so bad they were talking about, will he go on IR?
Yeah.
The consensus, and again, there were some smart people that weren't on this train, but the consensus of fantasy football Twitter based on the number of tweets was there's only 5 guys I would start ahead of Kraft. And what did I tell you? I said, I'm worried about this.
Yeah.
I just don't like when guys are talking about being on the IR.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're active and people are like, there's only 5 guys I would start above Kraft. Well, Kraft in week 1, when he was perfectly healthy, wasn't even the top 12 guy. Yet because he had a big week 2, now all of a sudden he's Superman. We know from the MVP, we know from the comm data that he's a streaky guy. He's a spike week guy. It's not because he's not a great tight end. It's because of the way that he's used by the Packers in that offense. But the other guy that was coming in hurt was a much more minor injury. He still landed on the questionable list, but there was never a doubt that he was going on IR. There was never a doubt that, they were always saying he's trending to playing. Mm-hmm. And that was Emeka Egbuka, the rookie. And people were like, you can't have him in your lineup. He's going to be limited. And on Kraft, I was looking for other alternatives to playing him. And one of them that I played ahead of him was Ferguson. Mm-hmm. That worked out pretty darn good. Of course, that happened mainly because Lamb went down, but that's, we'll take lucky over good any day.
Right.
But with Ibuka, he was in every one of my starting lineups. Yeah. I was not fearful at all. And people were saying, oh, that's too risky. I'd have him on the bench. No. He was a 12 to 16 point player when he was healthy. Yeah, and he's going to be a 12 to 16 point player this week as well. Yeah. If you've got something better than 12 to 16 points, for crying out loud, of course you're going to have him in the starting lineup. But I don't have guys that'll guarantee are 12 to 16 point guys as much as Egbuka. And what did he have, by the way? He had 14. Yeah. So he was right in that range where I expected him to be. And I said, man, I'm worried about Kraft being a 5 to 6 point guy on a bad week. By the way, he was a 9-pointer week 1 when he was perfectly healthy. So if he's 9 points when he was perfectly healthy, I guess start worrying about half of that for a guy that was almost on the IR. But people will justify everything. Oh, well, maybe he wasn't as good. No, you were wrong. You were wrong. I'm going to be wrong too. I was wrong about Isaiah Pacheco. I thought we were going to see the back class of Pacheco, which was top 12. We have barely seen top 30 performance out of him. Very poor year. So I was wrong about Isaiah Pacheco. You're going to be wrong about players. Just own it. But the crazy logic, I call it the crazy logic pretzel that we twist ourselves into sometimes. I made a comment on Fantasy Football Twitter. I said, we drafted Ladd McConkey as the WR3 in the league. And we're getting WR3 on his own team. He has been the third best wide receiver in points scored on the Chargers this year. Keenan Allen is way ahead of him. Quentin Johnson is way ahead of him. This was not, he is the third best. I've said in the first 3 weeks, he's been the third best on his own team, making a joke about it because people were saying, oh, he's the top 3 guy. And I was saying, he's good, but I don't think he's top 3. I was a little worried. His MVP index did not suggest that he was even a lock to be top 12 this year. I thought he was about a 14th, 15th guy.
Yeah. I didn't draft any of him.
I got like 1 share in redraft. I've got a couple in dynasty where I picked, took a shot at him.
Yeah.
At a good value. But I've got 1 in redraft. I've got 1. That's it. And the funny thing is, I'm in 3 guillotine leagues this year.
Yeah.
So 3 guillotine leagues, there's 3 weeks. That means there's been 9 teams eliminated.
Yeah.
7 of the 9 had Ladd McConkey in their starting lineup.
Ooh, rough.
It's when you see stuff like that, you got to realize it. But here was the logic. People were telling me, oh, it's just a slow start. And you're letting recency bias of Egbuka, because I said, I think right now Egbuka is a better play in fantasy football than Ladd McConkey. Just there's less competition for touches. There's no volume problems with Egbuka until you get a healthy Godwin and Evans back. And then the whole thing changed. Yeah. And we may never have both of them healthy at the same time.
Right.
And by the time they come back, maybe Egbuka is just all world. And now he is better than those 2 guys.
In a few years ago, maybe last year, JSN, Metcalf, and Lockett were on Seattle, and maybe the year before, but I remember there was always a discussion. It's like, well, 1 or 2's going to get you something. Who's the odd man out?
Yes.
And, sometimes Lockett was, but sometimes JSN was. A lot of times Metcalf was in. So you were really choosing which one to sit. And that was driving people nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And I see the same thing coming, Dennis. There's going to be a lot of people, throwing their computer against the wall when they pick the wrong one.
Yeah. And here's the thing when it comes to Egbuka and McConkey, though, that comparison.
Right.
So I was told, oh, you're letting recency bias make you pick Egbuka over McConkey. We saw what McConkey was last year. Yeah. Yes, McConkey in his first 3 games in the league had a total of 25 fantasy football points.
Yeah.
25. Egbuka is at 49 after 3 weeks.
Yeah.
What if Egbuka is just a better player than McConkey? That's a possibility. And right now he's got no competition for volume.
No. but I'm just saying, I think in a few weeks, if we get Evans,
Yes.
Godwin's up, and then watch the fur fly. People are going to be crabbing, and I'm just saying, I'm
Oh,
expecting that because I've seen it in Seattle.
oh yeah. And here's the thing though, is if you drafted Egbuka,
You gonna have? I mean, are you gonna sit him?
no,
And you
well,
gonna go nuts the week that he gets 10 and they get
yes.
20 and 15,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's the sucky guy, and everybody they're gonna be going nuts.
Yeah, and but here's the thing. You drafted him as your WR3 or 4. And in some cases I got him as my WR5, which shocked me.
Yeah,
And you know, we have two flex positions and two wide receiver positions. So you have four positions that can be filled by wide receivers.
right.
There's going to have to be a really good reason if he continues to perform the way he does. And he's been in double digits all three games. So it's not like he's had a bad game yet.
Right.
He'll be one of my flex spots. It's like Tatario McMillan with Carolina. He hasn't exactly set the world on fire, but he also hasn't had a really, really bad game yet.
Yeah.
Like he's been 11, 16, and 7. I'll take that out of my WR5. That's where I was getting him. So if I've had to play him with guys like Ayuk, not in yet, Rice suspended, Worthy hurt, I'll take 7 in a bad week. Like if that's the worst week that I get out of a fantasy football player all year, I'm going to be celebrating.
I hear you. It's very good.
And Professor, before we jump in
Yeah.
on Thursday, wanted to mention, we mentioned a little bit of this in the pre-show. Want to mention it here as well.
Yeah.
Really happy the way our rookie running backs are rounding into form. I think our strategy this year is going to be sound. We didn't know which 5. We had a lot of them. We didn't know which 5 would necessarily be the guys that would break through. Yeah, we're not talking Judkins and Hampton and Travion Henderson and Giante guys. Those are 4 that were premium picks, and they better do well. But we're talking the Woody Markses of the world. We've already gotten a good week or 2 out of Sampson before Judkins came back. So I'm happy with that pick. We've got our emerging running backs, rookie running backs. I'm liking the way this is going, Professor. I think we're in good shape.
I believe so. And it, I think there are more potential picks out there, and you and I watched that kind of unfold. And right now we're watching Arizona,
Yes.
and I'm kind of with you on Michael Carter over Dale McCarlo. I'm thinking I would rather pay. First, he's not a lot available anyway. Carter's available everywhere
Yeah. Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
buck. And in
Yes.
fact, Dennis, since he's hidden, you've got to actually
You got
search
yes, you do.
and you find him and you put him in for $1. So you've got to work to get him. So, you know,
And he's not showing up on anybody's projections for this week. He's a 0, so when you do yours, when you look at the free agents and you sort by either percentage owned,
you go miss, you go missing.
he's off the board. If you search by projections for this week, he ain't on that board either. You really have to go, you have to know your stuff to find these hidden guys.
Yep, I agree. And I think there's some more out there that I'm kind of watching and seeing what's going on.
But remember, Professor, once upon a time, this is how we got Chuba Hubbard for our FPPC Dynasty team.
Yep.
We got him for $1. We
Right.
got him cheap before he blew up. And that was, it's just a process, folks. And no, we're not saying, add Michael Carter and drop a better, drop
No.
some guy.
No.
We're talking about if you got an open space. Your
Well,
guy went on the
Connor's
IR.
gone. So I
Eckler's
do have an
gone.
open
Connor's
space.
gone. We've got some built-in open spaces.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I agree. And so, Dennis, probably won't get it out today. So you're going on Pros and Joes tonight, Wednesday night?
yes, with Greg Kellogg and the
Yeah.
gang.
Are
I
you
guess
the pro or the
they
Joe or
they apparently have made me the pro, which I'm not sure if
boy,
I
okay.
justify
Aren't you
that.
moving up in the world? Wow.
Yeah, it would have been a year or two ago. I would have been the
Be
Joe
like,
on this kind of
who?
a show.
Who is this crazy guy with the caffeine eyes? Who is this guy?
Uh, they seem to
Good.
be they seem to be promoting me a lot over there.
Now,
So I
Dennis, you got the gift of gab, that radio background, that you know, just you are who you are, and it you carry yourself as good as and better than many on Twitter, and you've got stuff to back it up. And see, there's just this, it's not really a gripe, but it is kind of, there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time just kind of
oh
rehashing the same stuff
yes
and just
yes
saying versus folks, Dennis does research too. I know that's kind of my forte. That's proportionally, I'm probably more in that. You know why? Because I'm retired and I have more time, and Dennis actually has a lot of other stuff in his life to do. But if he finally quit those radio people and actually come and join me, we who knows where we'd be. But anyway, Dennis doesn't have the time, but boy, when he has time, he kicks out his articles. And I'm going to plug one more time. He has the look back, look forward, reason. Let's see what reason. No, look back, reason forward. I love that. And then your kind of your blurb, almost tip sheet like, with different players and a little scribble about them. And folks, I just put you at the foundation, so don't read Dennis's articles and say, "Oh, I'll follow this exactly." What we would like for you to do is think about why Dennis has said what he said and how does that fit in with what you're doing, right? And
yes.
and your diary, just say, Dennis, yeah, he really cost me. Yeah, write it in red ink and send us a photo of it at the end of the season, so we can, laugh at your anger at Dennis. But no, these are good foundational plays. You still got time. The first game we're going to talk about here in a second, Thursday. So you got time to make some decisions. Those are up now. Okay. There may be some first come serve waivers, or we have another fab bid coming Saturday. I'm going to look and look again. When I have time, I don't I'm never, oh, I'm done setting my lineups. Dennis, I'm never done. And I'm
No,
never done setting my
no.
waivers. I assure you, Friday night, Saturday night, I'm digging in there,
And,
and thinking and thinking and thinking.
well, here's the routine that you have to get into when you play a lot of leagues like we do.
Yeah.
You can't wait until Sunday or even Thursday evening to set your
Right.
lineups
Right.
when you've got 60 teams to set lineups for. You've got to have a strategy, you've got to have a system. And I literally set my lineup for the first time on Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all of the depth charts, I'm
Yeah.
looking at the data and everything. And I get organized and I put my guys down by
and
who's
and you
most
share it
likely.
in this
Yes,
article, Leaders of the
yes,
Pack After Wi-Fi. This is up at
correct.
Science of Fantasy Football. I actually mirrored this at the Fantasy Sports Affiliation, their website, so you can catch us one place or the other. And Dennis, defined some terms here.
What a shock.
And
Yeah, actually
imagine that,
define what
his
I'm
spike
using. Yeah.
concept, his upside, his MVP. And then he gives you the blurb in his, numerical. And, I see Jaden Daniel, number 4. He's been hurt, but there you go. That kind of thing. And there, some of these at the end might be something worth playing here. And here's his in the deeper RB. So Ramondre Stevenson, Dennis, I saw this. You put new.
Yeah.
Uh, the
It-
coach said they still need him.
yes.
That worried
Yes.
me about Trayvon
I
Henderson.
know it. I know.
Right? I hadn't heard anybody say that.
I
But when the
know.
coach says we need him, even though, in other words, what he's saying, we'll take his 2 fumbles because we still think he's going to give us at least as good as Trayvon or better. That worries
Yeah.
me if I've got Trayvon, folks. If I, I mean,
So
just be
I
aware,
have
be
a
cautious
so
with
I have
that
a
kind of
league.
comment.
I have a league where it's a pretty deep league. So we start 3 running backs, we
Yeah,
start 3 wide receivers, we
yeah,
start 2 tight ends.
right.
It's a super flex, and we have three or four. I think we have 4 flex positions as well.
Boy,
Okay, so
that's
you're
just a
deep.
start, everybody,
You're
Dennis.
very deep. You're very
Yeah,
deep.
yeah,
And what I love doing in those leagues, when you have a lot of starters like that,
yeah,
I love to play them both strategies. So I'll have Stevenson and
yeah.
Henderson in the same lineup this week.
That's fine with that kind of league, but if I've got one
Oh,
flex,
one flex,
I'd be
you gotta
really cautious
oh
about playing either. You know, I,
because it's not Gibbs and Montgomery at their
no,
best.
it is
Okay.
not.
Gibbs and Montgomery at their best, that's a 40 to 55 point playing the 2 of these.
Yeah,
If Stevenson and Henderson have their maximum performance, you're looking at 15 to 35 points
that's at the
between the
best.
2.
But you
That's at
might,
the
instead of
best.
Sonic and Knuckles, it might be fumbles and mumbles there. What do you get?
Yes.
Bumbles, I guess, would be the fumbles and
Yeah.
bumbles there.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't need that.
But I was hoping there was a part of me that
Well,
was hoping
we're still
that
early. We still
that
might get Tavion. He may come through for you.
but again, this is why I said by week 6,
Yeah,
this is how many rookies are
this
gonna.
is
We're
it's
only
week
week
4.
4.
Yeah, week 4.
So, but
But
looking
I
at
did
this,
not like that coach's
oh no,
statement.
no,
Right? You took it the same way I did.
oh, I when I see stuff like that, because you saw my comment
Yeah,
before that issue here on the article, his
yeah.
fumble issues
Last week.
make his future volume uncertain.
And when the
that's
coach is talking, though, it almost says, well, he's going to get something.
yes. So, and the reality is that there's a reason there are 3 active running backs every week for every NFL team.
Yes.
They don't always get on the field, but there's always 3 running backs active because bad stuff happens to running backs. But looking at this article, the
Yeah.
things I would like to bring attention to,
Mhm.
if you see a guy labeled new, that means he's broken in to the list for the first time.
Boy, that's bad if he's fumbling and still broken in. Here's
He just broke
Shaheed.
it. But some of these
Quentin
guys,
Johnson. Yeah.
some of these guys broke in because I eliminate the injured players.
Yeah.
So for
Right,
instance,
right. Yeah,
right, right now for a snapshot after week 3,
yeah.
Kittle is not listed as a tight end.
Right.
We know he's the 3rd best tight end,
Right.
but he's not listed because this is where are we going into week 4?
Yeah.
Okay. And he is not going to be anywhere to be seen heading into week 4. Now, if a guy is just questionable and not out, he
Yeah.
keeps in this list. For instance, if JJ McCarthy
Mhm.
had earned a spot in the top 15, which he didn't,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would keep him in the list. But
Right.
and that's but an Aaron Jones is out. even though he would make the list, because he's not going to be active for several more weeks.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's a judgment call on every player. Okay. There isn't a set formula for this, except for if a guy's on the IR, he is off this list. If a guy is hurt, like Jaden Daniels stayed on the list last week, even though I knew he was going to be inactive.
Yeah.
And he's on the list again, even though he might not be active again this week. But he's possibility of playing. And that's why he stays on the list.
Anyway, I did want to advertise that. And Dennis also has his other one, K, and his let's see, what is it? I keep looking forward, and I'm the one who figured
you came up
out.
with the idea.
Yeah.
Came up with the
so
title.
This one, he goes team by team in case your waivers run tonight, which ours do, and I've got about 10 more teams to figure out here. And I like the way because what I do, Dennis, is first thing I do, I look at your no waiver targets next. So I go through, of course, you've got it laid out at the end, and that's the quick here. Dart is hidden as well, folks, in FFPC, and you have to search him. And I bid $1 on him where I had Browning in a couple. And you're saying, did you pay a lot for Browning? No, I think I paid $30-$40, and I bought into the hype, and then all of a sudden I realized, even going in, what I should have realized, right? The defense had time; they'd figure him out. And
which you did say last week.
I know I did before, but the Wednesday waivers had already run, Dennis.
Oh yeah.
So I needed that, epiphany way before. But
Professor, sometimes you need a live body on your roster, because in FPPC, you can't just add a guy on Sunday morning.
And here's Michael Carter. Here's my dollar holler guy. I've got Gainwell. In other words, all these people, by the way, Dennis, these top two, they're not in any of my leagues.
No,
I would dream of being.
No.
McNichols is, and I'm gonna try all three of these if they're all available, $1. And I'm probably putting, if I've got Benson, I'm putting Carter first. If I don't have Benson, I'm probably putting McNichols first.
I like that strategy.
I'm probably doing Gainwell third, but
I like that idea.
But that's that's how I'm flipping McNichols here. Love Audemars, and of course I have him on not enough teams, but I got him on some nice teams.
He was the closest. Remember in the preseason, I said he's the closest to a Puka guy who could come out of nowhere.
Dennis, I was all in on him. And silly me, I had already hoarded Trey Tucker.
Oh yeah,
didn't play him.
How
was I going to know?
Me neither. He was on our list though. He was on our
I wanted to ask you about Thornton. Is it worth a play here? Looks like he was getting the volume game one with Worthy healthy. He's a Trey Tucker is available, and so I've been flipping these two right here, and the rest of them I know you got it as a $1 play, and I've probably not been getting this deep. I have been taking Tolbert over Turpin, but you're saying Turpin over Tobin because I asked you, and it's still time to flip them.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth between the two of them.
Okay, so you're
I do.
Okay.
And,
well, I'm not.
And the key is
and no tight ends. What about the Gadsden guy?
Yeah, Gadsden was a mistake by me. I should have had Gadsden in there.
He should be right in there.
Yeah,
Dennis.
He should have been a $30 play. That was my mistake. I dropped that one. When I wrote the article, I was like, "Oh, he should have been in there."
Yeah, because I think you mentioned him in the other thing.
Yes.
Somewhere I've read that.
Yeah. Gadsden's a guy that I really, I I really like.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, so I've got a weird strategy in Dynasty that I use.
Yeah.
In one league where I could use an extra tight end. I mean,
Right,
it's
right.
I got some
So in the
some
Chargers, the Gadsden is the guy, and
Gadsden's the guy. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm and I'm probably wrong to do this, but Otten, I think I've had enough of him.
He just drives you nuts because he'll
So
put zeros up. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm trading him out for Gadsden, and if I can't get him, then I'll stay with Otten. But he's not my he in a lot of places, Otten is where I've got Kittle. So I've got Kittle,
Yes.
I've got somebody else in Otten. And that somebody else could be Strange. It could be Jawan Johnson I picked up, or it could be Fant who got hurt. You know, I'm just scraping to try to get Kittle back. You know, just scraping by, Dennis.
Yeah, it's been if you have Kittle on your team, you probably didn't take another tight end that was
Because
prominent.
my strategy is usually if the better
Yes.
tight end I take early, the later I wait to take the backup.
One of my teams, my last pick in the draft
Yeah.
before I took a kicker in defense.
Yeah.
I t- Actually I took my kicker in defense before,
Oh,
and then my
wow.
last pick,
Yeah.
my 20th round pick was Jawan Johnson because I didn't
Well,
like anything
you
else.
know, now that I think about that, I don't know why I didn't have more of him.
And well, always all we were all over him in the best ball drafts.
We sure were.
We loaded up on Jawan Johnson, but in redraft, I
Yeah.
did not take enough of him. I have one share,
Yeah.
and then I added one, but that's it. And
Yeah.
it's that was lean city there. But no, getting back to my dynasty thing. So I've got a weird strategy that I use,
Yeah.
and people would say, "Oh, this is a horrible way to play," because everybody's about value. Okay. Oh, you didn't get good value for that guy.
By the
Screw value.
way, what's definition of value?
It has no meaning. It's whatever
Right.
people want to define it. There is no set definition for any of these words. That's why whenever I write an article, I put the definitions for what I'm going to talk about because there are no accepted definitions. I want you to know what I mean when I'm saying sleeper, whatever. But here's what I do. Gadsden just barely showed enough to get on people's radar last week. First game in the NFL. Okay, was inactive first 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and he had like 4 or 5 targets week 2,
Right.
just enough to get on people's radar. So he was a 4th-round draft pick in rookie drafts this year.
Right.
I've offered 2nd-round picks for him this week, but only on teams where I have 2 first-round picks next year. So in other words, I already have somebody else's first-round pick. I'm getting 2 very good players. I'm getting 2 of the top 12 players coming out as rookies. And I'm probably finishing pretty high in that league. So I'm thinking my 2nd-round pick is probably going to be 21st to 24th. I'm willing to give that up on a bet on
Yeah.
a one guy, on a guy who showed me only 1 game worth of data. He's not worth a 2nd-round pick yet. I'm willing to gamble. I wouldn't give up a 1st-rounder, but I'm willing to gamble a late second, overpay, and try to get people to say yes before they think about where he could be. Because guess who was also a 5th-round pick in the real NFL draft at tight end? George Kittle.
Yep. Yep.
Gadsden is an interesting player. Remember, he made my opportunity index
Yes, he did.
article. He was a guy, he was also a rookie that I said, this is a guy you got to look at. He's not, no, you're not taking him over Fannin. You're not taking him over Loveland or ahead of, Tyler Warren, but he might be the fourth best tight end coming out of the draft behind those obvious three. I kind of like this kid. So the minute he showed anything, it's like, I'm firing a second round pick. If you look at any of the trade calculators, I'm overpaying quite a bit. I'm overpaying by about 1,500 points, which is a lot in all the trade calculators, but I want him. I'll take that bet because he has no competition at the position and he does have a good chance to be a decent tight end. I don't think he's going to be top 5 in fantasy football because there's too many mouths to feed with the Chargers. But maybe he's 8th best, 10th best is where he ends up being. Maybe he's another Juwan Johnson type of guy who just is he continues to astound us with good performances. That's what I'm thinking is possible out of Gadsden.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that was a mistake leaving him off this week. I thought about it as soon as I published that article, like, I forgot.
That's fine. Less people for me to compete with. I like it. We are up to Thursday because we've been talking a long time, Dennis. My dog's excited. Everybody's excited about Thursday. Thorne, who's going to win? Arizona? Ooh, he's silent. I guess Seattle for the upset there. Seattle going to win? He's confused. He thinks it's going to be close, so that's what I think as well. He agrees with that. Dennis, so folks, I do have, I'll put this hard copy up there. Hey, here, have a chip. Uh-oh, I got a pretzel here. Oh, he came now. Here, one pretzel. Be quiet. So I'll have this. I have my week 4. You hadn't seen this, Dennis.
Ooh,
week 4 power rankings. We have Chargers and Philly owning this week with Detroit. So we got 3. Play them all. Play everybody. Philly, Chargers, Detroit. They are wonderful, great. Be cautious of my Saints because they're at the bottom. Tennessee, Cleveland. Again, this is offense, not defense here. Worry about Carolina. But anyway, those are the reds and the greens, Dennis. So you can take a look at that and see what you think. I think it's been interesting to see who's who and what's what there. Last week it was interesting, but Philly this week it says Philly and Chargers and Detroit should dominate, at least if you look at this measurement. Efficiency, I've done efficiency for the first 3 weeks. Baltimore number 1, believe it or not. Pittsburgh number 2, Seattle number 3. I know we've got Seattle, Arizona. They've been doing pretty good here. Minnesota, Cincinnati's still there because this is, that week 1 was so good. Philly's right there. And the Jets, that might be surprising because that first week or whenever Wilson went nuts.
Yep.
That just, So realize, folks, you're saying, well, this doesn't, I only got 3 data points. So don't just, this is not gospel for your playoffs here in 10 weeks, okay? I will be up to, but just today, a snapshot, this is what's been going on for efficiency. So I have calculated that and look.
One thing that comes as a surprise, but knowing the secret sauce about how it's done, it doesn't. Look at where Detroit is. And people would have, if I would have said who is in the top 4 in offensive efficiency, Detroit would have been there. And
they had that bad game, Dennis.
They had a bad game to lead it off. And that's the thing with efficiency is if you have one bad week out of 3.
Out of 3, right.
It's very, very sensitive.
But it will be swamped out.
Yes.
In 6 more, 3 more weeks, we'll have 6. It's going to get stronger. It's not going to get weaker.
But what that tells you when you're looking at fantasy football is
Yeah.
if they go against a tough defense on the road,
Yeah. Be cautious.
beware,
Yeah. Be
beware,
cautious.
because there's a reason for the kink in the armor. Versus Baltimore is going to be scoring a boatload of points
May not win every time, but they're
because
just, yeah.
well, their defense sucks
Yeah, they
compared to
do.
what the Ravens usually are. Like Ravens have typically been a great defensive team.
Yeah.
The last couple years, they have not. They've got some talent on the
Yeah.
defense. They can make some big plays,
Right.
but overall, they're very beatable. So, but this
Anyway,
is
people can look
offensive
at
data.
this
Very
and
good
take
stuff.
it for what it is. We'll be discussing the efficiency. Home away splits is going to be really wacky for 3 weeks. But
Oh, yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
but anyway, we have to start somewhere. The DApps have been re-energized. Everything has moved up. I hadn't even have time to compare last year. Dennis asked me that question. I haven't had time. Uh, but our matchup lab for Saturday recording and our regular podcast, we'll have all this efficiency data. We'll have the power rankings. We'll have all our usual good stuff coming. But anyway, that's where we're at. And then tomorrow night, Arizona 23, Seattle 20. Vegas and I haven't looked in a day or two, but I'm assuming Arizona's still the favorite over Seattle. But it seems close. Arizona's at home. That's why I think this is not a pick 'em, Dennis, is because Arizona's at home. If Seattle was at home, I would expect them to have been the favorite. So that's how close I think this is. 43 is a little on the low side.
Actually,
Uh,
showing this one flipped now.
is it flipped?
It flipped around. It opened as -1.5 for Arizona. It is now -1.5 for Seattle. So it is completely flipped
Yeah,
by 1.5 points. But that's what my data is showing.
yeah.
But the interesting thing is the money lines are so close. Like we're talking -123 to a +103.
Right,
That's even money. That's as close to a pick 'em as they're ever going to show.
right. Well, I will change this. So anyway, that's interesting now that Seattle uh, will be the favorite there because, like I said, it I think early, and I don't know what changed. I wonder
I'm
what,
not sure what
but it
maybe
but it may be a site specific, Dennis.
it very well could be, and it could be one of these deals where it's going to be. I've seen very few pick'ems lately. The last couple of years they've all been -1.5 is what they basically. I haven't even seen like half point favoritism like we used to see.
Right.
So they flip them. I mean, this flipped 3 points basically, which is
Yeah.
rare to see it
Right.
move. But all it did was we picked one guy and now we're picking the other. And I wonder, 84% of the money came on Seattle. So I wonder if that's what influenced the change of the line
Is
was
the bunny lineup?
84% went on Seattle +1.5. So
Yeah.
they are now trying to even up the betting.
Okay. Okay. So, well, anyway, that's I tried to change it. So there it is. I changed it. And uh so Arizona against Seattle wide receivers, Marvin Harrison, who's been having trouble.
Oh,
Yeah, the DApps are not good for him, but look at
yeah.
McBride. Feast City here.
Ooh,
So if
boy.
I'm doing a prop, that might be part of your parlay for this game, or tight end parlay. I like that tight end parlay. I need to think about that this week. Play the kicker for sure. None of the defenses I would play. Running back, so Benson has an opportunity. It's below average. It's not crazy, the Kyler Murray, but just be aware that it stacks up for running backs and tight ends being pass catchers more than Harrison. So is it Michael Wilson's the number two?
Yes.
He comes in sometimes, but he's not that strong either. So yeah, it's interesting. Seattle, on the other hand, it's almost don't worry about anybody except the tight end. But I don't even know who Seattle's tight end is. That they must.
AJ Barner
Yeah, he
not
hasn't.
being used
Yeah,
much.
kicker. So all about the JSN, Dennis. So there's your parlay. You get the McBride, Lovin, and the JSN. There's your two-step parlay right there. If you have to play an in-game parlay, Dennis, that's what the DAPS would lead you to believe. And running backs are fine. Walker, Charbonnet's back. I mean, they may cut each other, but it could be a play them all. I don't have them. I didn't draft both of them. This was not where I did. I
Yeah.
tried to do Gibbs
Yeah.
Montgomery, and that was where I really was trying to lean hard into play them both, was grab them both, and I did have Connor and Benson, but then that's gone. So anyway, that's what it looks like. Arizona, the efficiency in the first 3 weeks, Dennis, this is new 50. Seattle, double that. So
Wow.
high efficiency, Seattle's ready to kick Arizona's butt. Home away splits, 3 games. They both love home. So Seattle, though, 35% less efficient away, but again, it's early. Okay. Uh, it looks like Arizona has been underdoing versus the league. They hadn't been rushing or passing attempts.
Hmm.
I don't, yeah. So that usually means the defense, or they just had really slow games, and that's not going to win them. That's not going to win against Seattle. Seattle on the road loves to pass 33%. Look at the DAP.
Wow.
33% plus goodness for passing, rushing's about the same. So looks to me Seattle goes through JSN and with a little helping of Walker and the depths and the efficiency would have all said Seattle. So when I saw this, I'm like, okay, Vegas. It's one of those where I would have said until you flipped it, the DAPs are not working with Vegas. That they're seeing different things. But makes more sense to me having Seattle. The spread though, the DAPs would almost imply the spread is a little weak, Dennis. It should be a bigger spread and maybe even a few more points. I don't know. It Arizona 20. I don't know. I'm not buying some of that Vegas is laying down there, but I'm not betting it either. I'm not getting crazy and betting till later in the season when I got more information there. So
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
think, Dennis?
Yeah. I like Seattle in this game, and it's more of a play of not trusting Arizona. Arizona's 2-1, and I don't know how they got there. Like, it just, to me, they have averaged just a touch over 20 points a game, and they've given up 17 a game. So they're playing very tough. So they being a tight line either way makes sense. And if I look at what they've been able to score versus what they've been able to give up, that's about a 37-point over under. And if I do the same thing with Seattle, um, I get more of about a 46. So it's so tight. The over under, I would not place a bet on this, but the fact that it's Thursday night, if you said, "Hey, you got to place a bet," I would take the under on this one because it's a goofy
It
Thursday night game.
it
Uh,
is it is
it
goofy.
and but yeah, I love JSN in this one. Love that matchup. How about this for the weirdest stat of the week, though? Torrey Horton, the rookie wide receiver, who again was a guy that I liked, coming into the season because he only had to get past Cooper Kupp to be second best on his own team. 8 targets, 2 touchdowns this year. It's incredible. He's been finding the end zone, and then he's added a couple of touchdowns in the return game. So you get return yardage. I have a league where I get return yardage, and he's been in my starting lineup, even though he's not even playing a third of the snaps, because when they go 3 wideouts, he's the guy. And then he's returning kicks for them as well. And he's been very, very good playmaker in the kick game. But he's a guy that is worth picking up, because if Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp has not looked all that great. He had 1 solid game and 2 bad games so far in 3. Maybe Horton gets more opportunity.
Oh, Horton was the one I was picking up.
Horton. Yep.
Yeah, I've got him in a couple already, folks, but a few others. I'm going to try to, this may be the last week to slip him in for $1.
Correct.
In fact, that may be over as well, but I'm greedy, Dennis.
Yeah.
I like to keep my fab.
Yeah, I try to keep my fab as well, but he's a guy that I'm really targeting for going forward. Notice I say not playing this week unless you get kick return yards, but a guy worth keeping an eye on for the future.
Yeah, I'm looking at my rankings here. There's looks like JSN is 100, so one of the best plays of the week. So we'll see. And then Walker's not bad, RB2, so he's definitely flex worthy. Arizona, I like Benson, RB2. Murray, I got him high, uncertainty, but he could give you a lot or a little. I love Trey McBride. This may even be too low. Harrison, I guess I'm hoping he's a WR3-4. If play him if you need him, but I wouldn't expect it. I would definitely need 2 flexes to probably shoehorn him in, Dennis. I'm really off here for what I've seen. He's dropping balls, and it's like his head's not in the game or something. Of course, he's highly uncertain this week on his floor ceiling. So that's the name of that tune.
Yeah, I would stay away from everybody on Arizona with the exception of Benson this week. He'd be the only guy that and McBride. Yeah, those are the 2 that are the only 2 that I would lean into on Arizona. Otherwise, I'm so reluctant to play Kyler Murray, and I'm not going to play Marvin Harrison Jr.
I have picked any. I pick them.
0. Yeah, 0 in that. I'm not.
Aren't I doing great? I didn't know I had this skill, Dennis. I've never played pick'em.
You are number 1.
Yeah, by two
of all of
two
the all of the TSA guys. I closed 39. Some ground. I'm up to 6th best this week
I see,
for the
34.
first 3 weeks. So hopefully I'll make my move now.
Yeah, I'm just amazed that, and the first week they were all slapping each other around, but nobody mentioned the old professor. That's fine. I'll just hide in the weeds, guys.
Yeah,
Professor can be a little salty. Love you guys, but I'm a little salty now. But I'm going to just be the fantasy football barracuda. I need my alternate burner account so I can get fantasy receipts mad at me. I can just throw out burning takes, savage takes as the fantasy barracuda.
I love it.
I'm going to hide in the weeds, jump out, and crack on people. But, folks, I got too many damn leagues to waste my time being, doing that. But, I'll let somebody else do that, Dennis. That can be Dennis. Dennis, you can be the fantasy barracuda. I don't care.
Oh, I do like to get salty occasionally.
But I like for you to get salty because it amuses me, the takes that people just go nuts about. I mean, folks, life is too short, and you let all this stuff bother you. I
Well,
don't know. People are
the funniest,
they're
the,
nuts now.
the funniest one, I'm not going to mention any names because I actually like the guy
Yeah,
and I don't want to embarrass him on the podcast, but you can go to my Twitter feed, D Mike Media, and you can see this.
yeah,
So over the course of the past week,
yeah,
I had probably 8 interactions where I quote tweeted this guy's
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
7 of the 8, I complimented him.
yeah,
And one I said, really bad take.
yeah.
He absolutely blew a cog,
Oh,
getting all pissy at me
oh,
over my one. And I had to remind him
yeah.
in a response that I have been promoting your stuff and complimenting you all week long, and you're going to get pissy about the one time I disagree, and you're not going to bring any data to back up why I'm wrong. And it
Did
was the Lad McConkey Agbuka thing.
yeah,
And
I know
and
who you're
I
talking about. Did
oh
he
yeah.
respond?
No, he
Oh,
ran away, but
oh, come on
I
now.
quickly
Don't do that. Don't
complimented
do
him.
that.
I complimented him the next day, and it all seems to be well. But
Yeah.
he got really irate for a Canadian. I'm not used to
Well,
Canadians being
yeah.
that
Well,
surly.
remember, Dennis, in one of my video lessons from 2, 3, 4 years ago, that part of the psychological side there, they found that we as humans feel losses 2 to 3 times
Oh
over
yeah,
our wins for the same
yes,
level. If you win 100 or lose 100, you feel twice, 3 times as bad losing 100 than winning. You would think it'd
yes,
be opposite. Man, I
yep,
won. No. And so at the racetrack, they worry. That's why I would get worried. That's why your dad would give you the money because that's
yes.
part of the spiral. Because you're feeling, man, you know, you want all this money. Your dad knew, but then he'd make a bet or two and lose, and all of a sudden it starts getting crazy. I got to make more money, and your mind just not thinking right, Dennis.
No.
And that's why people just, and especially that last race out the door, they'd
Oh,
always say people, the best time to bet a favorite at the racetrack is the last race because everybody's shooting for the long shots to get healthy to walk out the door because they know they're going to have to go down there to McDonald's, dollar menu versus bring home that chicken, that bucket of chicken for the wife. She's going to look at him, say, I don't want this dollar menu crap. And, she pulled out the rolling pin on you. Come on now, been there, done that. So, we feel our losses much more than our
yes.
wins. And folks, that stuff that I posted, those are good lessons, and you should circle back around to seeing my video lessons. But it's like they do experiments and find this, but there's no medicine to take to I mean, I guess you could just knock yourself out and that you won't feel bad then because you're knocked out, but you just realize. And so in your bets and in your drafts, you can't be worried about the one time you're wrong. Think
No,
about it, how everybody'd be sad. How could anybody go in fantasy football and be perfect? It will never
no,
happen.
never
And you've
happens.
just got to train yourself and just maybe put a sign. I feel my losses 3 times my wins. So if
And
you pick,
yeah,
4 or 5 great draft picks, they're doing great, and one dud, don't get mad. Be happy. You got 3 or 4. Good job.
you you draft in FPPC, we draft 20 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
18 of them matter.
Yep.
Okay, kicker
Yep.
and defense,
Yeah, we
you can
play.
just
We
stream
stream,
whatever
but
you want.
it
But
is what it is.
I try to grab a kicker that I don't have to stream very often. I want a kicker on a good offense. And if he's got a bad matchup any given week, I might swap him out, but I don't really care. And defenses, I will play. I'll stream
Yeah.
defenses almost every league I'm in. So
Right.
you got 18 picks that you're making.
Right.
If I can be right on 12 of those 18 picks,
Right.
I'm going to be doing backflips with joy. Well, it still means I sucked a third of the time. Like you got to build that in. And here's the thing is when you pick 18 players the way we follow the draft strategy that we have developed, the better than zero concept, and I say we because without your help it doesn't become reality. We're
Thank you, sir.
partners in everything we
Thank you,
do.
sir. Yeah. For good
And
or for bad,
for
Dennis.
good or for bad.
Realize,
It
you know,
might, it's not the best. It's what we've got to work with right
that's
now. And
right.
it's an
That's right.
ever changing and adapting system. That's what makes it successful. It's not a take this and then this thing. It's react to what's available and get as many of the best players as you can. That's the whole game of fantasy football. I'll worry about piecing a lineup together later in the draft. I'm first 5, 6 rounds, I'm just grabbing the best guy that I can grab. But here's the thing. In that strategy, because of the way I draft to protect myself, if I take one guy from a team at running back, I'm probably backing him up if he comes cheap. My Chase Browns are all backed up by Taj Brooks this year, for instance. Just like last year, all of my Rashad White was backed up by Bucky Irving. I didn't know which one was going to be the better running back by week 16. Didn't care. I was set either way because I knew that offense was going to be great. I had faith in Baker, just like I have faith in Baker Mayfield this year. Couldn't believe how cheap I got him in drafts. I got a lot of Baker Mayfield rolling around. He was drafted as my second quarterback in a lot of leagues, and he'll be the starter now. But the key is I knew that offense was going to be good. Give me as many chips from a good offense as I can get, and I will figure out how to put a lineup together. I do not want a lot of chips from the Tennessee Titans. I would take Pollard or I would take Ridley or Yanamor.
Yep.
But I'm not taking all three. Like you look at my teams, the only multiple player teams are offenses that should be really good. That's the way. I have a lot of Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen on teams. I didn't know which one was going to be better. It wasn't that I thought they were going to be better than Ladd McConkey. I just knew they were cheap and that they were going to be good, solid WR2s. Keenan Allen is playing like the 25-year-old Keenan Allen right now. It's insane. Does it last? I don't know, but I'm riding it for as long as it goes. And
Gotcha.
Quentin Johnson was a guy that I've been, I was high on last year, thinking that could be the breakout season. Well, maybe I was a year early. Maybe he'll flop, but right now he's doing well. And so I'm off to a good start on those teams. But the key is with this strategy, I'm not going to be 18 for 18 in any draft.
Right.
Because I'm backing up my logic. So if I have 4 backup picks out of my 18, so if 4 of my guys I have backed up with other guys with their backup, I've literally backed myself up.
Yep.
That's 4 times I'm probably going to be wrong. But the key is I'm set no matter which guy has the WR2 season. And in the case of Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen, they're both having WR1 seasons. Yep. It's not going to last. It's not going to last. Yeah. McConkey is good. He's going to start taking volume away because defenses will react to slow down Keenan Allen and McConkey will eat. That's the sort of thing that is going to evolve during the season. But I was drafting them to be a flex play.
Yep.
I got a starter out of both of them. So, but the key is in any draft, 18 guys you're picking, you're going to be wrong on 6 of them.
Yep.
minimum.
Yep.
But if you have a,
but like I said, you're feeling bad, worse than you
oh
think.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Dennis, that's part of the mental side of this, which probably doesn't get as much discussion, because it goes so fast. If you have a routine, okay, Sunday we're doing
yeah.
this, Monday, Tuesday, you
Woo.
don't even have time really. You just feel crabby and salty. And then we got these what Irish game this
Oh man.
yeah, I'm gonna forget to set my lineup. I'm gonna be extra salty if I forget that. So
And I
I'm gonna
got a
be an
road trip.
angry barracuda. So
I got a road trip Sunday, so
what?
I got
Yeah,
to
you
set my
better.
lineups, and then I got to hope I'll have good internet connection because I'll be at a country club auto race,
Must be
doing the
nice.
announcing.
Dennis doesn't tell y'all folks. He acts like he's a common guy, but he hobnobs with the who's and the thems that all that money and champagne and stuff.
They're nice
When
folks
he
to
comes to the
know.
expo, you think he's a ham and egg kind of guy. It's caviar and lobster for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
It's
yep.
when
He's fancy.
it's when I pull up at the racetrack
Yeah,
at one of these events,
yeah,
when you park in the parking lot,
yeah,
you instantly know who is working the track
yeah,
that day and who is there to race. Like
yeah,
the difference between the members and the peons
yeah,
with vehicles is pretty impressive. The last time I was out there, there was an announcement on the PA system in the
yeah,
press box that said, "Hey, that such and such car is out on the track taking hot laps."
yeah.
And I was like, okay, I got to see this. If they're announcing it, it's got to be a big deal. And it was a pretty cool looking vehicle. They said the value on that thing,
Yeah.
there were 6 of them in the world
Yeah,
that
I
were
can
still
imagine.
running.
Wow,
6 of these cars. They said the insured value on this car was over $1.5 million.
that's crazy.
And the guy had it on a racetrack. But here's the even more bizarre thing. He drove it
Yeah,
through the city of Chicago to
that's
get to
crazy.
Joliet. A
That's
car that's worth
crazy.
$1.5 million. I couldn't do that. But when they told me what else he had on the grounds at his Taj Mahal, his garage mahal out there,
Hmm.
he's got about $16 million in inventory on the property.
Gotcha.
This man has got a few dollars to spend, but a real nice guy. But yeah, there's when I go to these events, I am the peon, but
Yeah,
they treat you really good there, and they
that's
got good
good.
food,
Well, have
and
fun.
it'll be a good time.
Post some pictures on the
But on
Twitter
a
so I can.
Sunday, how dare they do this to me on a Sunday?
Yeah,
But
well,
it will add some excitement to the
okay.
lineup
So
setting.
just
So
make sure your lineup is set.
yes, indeed. So my lineups will be ultra set because I will not be able to reset them for a while. But you got to have a routine, folks. That's what you need, and make it fun for you. Head on over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. Check out my 2 articles, kind of
Great article.
reviews and looks ahead. And check out all the professor's data. He puts so much data out there for us to enjoy. Head on over to the sports affiliation and like their YouTube page,
Yeah.
please. And
So you can
catch
follow
our
Dennis, showing how sharp he is there.
oh, not really. And catch the matchup lab on Saturday over at the sports affiliation and come back here next week. Well, actually, this week on Saturday for
Saturday. Yep.
another edition of the Science of Fantasy Football.
Get to work, folks.
All
Well, there
right.
you go. Okay.
That was good stuff.
It is. Yeah, I'm ready for supper now. My dog's howling. Everybody's howling. Let me stop
Yeah.
recording.